Hey folks, welcome to the June 25th, 2025 meeting of the Fall River Redevelopment Authority. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recording and transmission are being made whether perceived or unperceived by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. First item is roll call. John Erickson.
Ron Rusin.
Ben Feidelberg.
Ann King.
And Joan Medeiros cannot join us tonight. Also joining us are Sarah Page, Executive Director, John Coughlin, Legal Counsel, Ken Fowler, Administrative Consultant, Karen Martin, Project Manager. First item is the approval of the open session minutes from May 28th. If there's no questions on those, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
A motion to approve the May 28, 2025 open session meeting minutes.
Second?
Second.
John Erickson, yes?
Ron Rusin, yes.
Ben Feidelberg, yes.
Ann King, yes.
Thank you. You guys have the warrant. Joan did go through it. Any questions on that? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve that warrant.
Motion to approve the June warrant in the amount of $125,225.65.
Second?
Second.
John Erickson, yes?
Ron Rusin, yes.
Ben Feidelberg, yes.
Ann King, yes.
Okay, next item is election of officers, which Sarah wants to speak to.
Well, Johnny checked with folks, and we'd like to put forward this slate of officers to maintain the officers that we have now.
Motion to approve the following candidate officers for a one-year term for the noted board position: Chair John Erickson, Vice Chair Ann Keen, Treasurer Joan Medeiros, ex officio Secretary Sarah Page, Executive Director.
Second?
Second.
John Erickson, yes?
Ron Rusin, yes.
Ben Feidelberg, yes.
Ann King, yes.
Thank you. Next item Karen's going to talk
Congratulations.
about is cathodic protection.
Congratulations. Oh,
Yeah,
cathodic protection, yes.
congratulations.
Yeah, I just,
Celebrate.
whatever, you know.
Yeah,
So cathodic protection. So Kavanaugh is down, currently working on cathodic protection work. The anodes have been received by them. They're working right now off a work skiff. I don't know if anyone's been down there and seen it. They're doing the knuckle welds at the top, just underneath the concrete at the top of the piles. And they've encountered a few things that have slowed them down a little bit. There's some concrete overspill that's gone into those gaps, so they've had to clean that out a little bit. And then there's some of the gaps in the sheet is wider than a weld, so they've been having to fill it. And the engineer's aware of this, and they've got approval with the fill material. This week's been a little tough for them just with the heat, and also they haven't done any coating this week because what's happening is when they're opening up the Denso 525 that goes over those knuckle welds, the coating is literally hardening up in like minutes. So because of the temperature, so they're pretty much he figures they're going to be done all the knuckle welds all around by the early part of next week. They'll go back and coat and start coating, and but they're going to start the anodes next week. So that should start next week. They've been running into some issues with tides, so they've been trying to work around that too. So they've got a cool magnet that keeps the skiff stable in the area they're working, so it's pretty neat. I said, why couldn't I have invented that? But the height, the difference in height can sometimes make it tough to get up there and get a steady hand. So, but they're making definite progress, and it seems to be going pretty well, actually. You know, no big surprises. So the diving portion, like I said, should start next week. So
okay.
that's going on.
On the Northfield Point, just as a little preface to the rest of the board, I feel like we kind of dumped a lot of information on you in a short period
Well,
of
I have
time.
more to talk about before we jump into that.
What's that?
I have more to talk about before we jump into that.
Before we jump into
Yeah,
that? Okay.
yeah, it's always stuff. Northfield Point, so we recently received progress set probably like at 90% of the drawings, and we're going through those and making some comments. The invasive work that we approved at last month's meeting is going out to bid, and The bid package will be on the street July 14th with a pre-bid meeting at the site July 23rd, and bids are gonna be due July 31st. So, there was no way I could tighten it up so we could bring the low bidder to our July meeting, just because of the requirements of, public procurement and everything. So, what I'm wondering, if it's possible, we can, have a few people involved with reviewing the bids with Sarah and I, so we can make a decision, about awarding prior to our next July meeting. The budget is only $60,000, so it's all grant money, so, I don't think it's gonna be a huge, I don't know how many will bid, I don't know, if there'll be a big range in prices or anything, but we'll review them all. So I didn't know, if you'd be amenable to putting together a little committee to do the bid review, and then we can bring, then we can proceed, and then we'll let you know in July who it was awarded to, and the numbers and everything.
You can only have 2 people go to that meeting, correct?
Yeah, we can only have 2, right?
Right, and I'm assuming Ken would be involved too and bring his expertise, but it
How
would
much
be-
is that contract, do you know?
It's budgeted at 60.
Now, the other option is that we have to, if we want to expedite it, to have a Zoom meeting and discuss it that way.
Have a what meeting?
A
A
Zoom.
Zoom meeting,
Oh, Zoom.
it would be really brief. It
It's for
would
the
be,
invasive species
no,
management, we got it with the
15
excess, we
minute
had
Zoom
extra
meeting
money
or
for that.
something.
Do we have a
Seaport grant,
bylaw
so-
on how much we can, that it has to come to the
You
whole
approve
full
for
committee?
bid to
a
design
certain
it and
amount
put the
of-
bid package
So do
together,
you have
this is
that
to get it out to
procurement
start the
policy
work.
that says anything under 10,000, Sarah can do
What's the
approval
cost
of
of
the treasurer and chair.
No, that's for the
Okay.
that's for the construction work, that's for the construction work.
Oh, so
But-
we couldn't do it with just 2 then?
No, I think it's almost like you're creating an informal process.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I mean, one way to do it would be to authorize the chair to execute a contract to the low bidder, ahead of time, if you want to, but that's, you're authorizing the chair to do it without really knowing what the full price is.
That's what I'm saying, so if we have to have if it's over $10,000, the whole board has to vote on it as a number, not as a project, correct?
No, not necessarily, you
So
can,
we
you can
can-
authorize the chair to sign in advance. You can-
Okay.
Yeah.
No
but-
matter how much, if it's between 10 and 50 and 60, it
As
doesn't
long as
matter.
the board votes to approve the contract, that's
Yeah.
really what counts, but you could say up to an amount not to exceed if you
Yeah, I
have
was
a
gonna say
reasonable,
that.
but I wanna be careful if it's $10 above that, then you're kinda stuck, because.
Yeah. So then we just have a Zoom meeting.
Do you think there's a dollar amount that's reasonable if they authorize the chair to award the contract and sign the contract up to a certain amount
And it's budgeted at 60, I can't imagine that it's going to be
above that?
above that.
And we're using Seaport Council funds, so if it went above that, then we'd need to
There is,
be
we do have some
putting-
excess money on there, yeah, in that.
And this is just a bid, it's not an RFP where you're evaluating. like-
It's an RFP, but, it's,
But there's no comparative criteria.
no, there's no
Yeah.
comparative criteria, no.
So you're-
It's the lowest responsible
It's the
bidder.
lowest responsible bidder.
Yeah.
So then the issue is, were they, we went through.
But that's a technical review of are they responsible, do
Yeah.
they meet the minimum requirements?
Yes.
So you could take a vote to authorize the chair
Yeah.
to award to the lowest responsible bidder
Under 60,000.
on 60,000 on it. I mean, that would be legitimate, fair. And then they would review it and
Yeah.
recommend to Johnny, this is the one to sign. Because if you do that committee, you get into that subcommittee and they have to meet public, it's,
Listen, based upon Beta's cost estimating,
I know.
I would give you some leeway in there.
It's actually been over
When
lately.
is this bid again? When does
It
bid?
actually bids July 31st.
pick a dollar amount, and if it goes above that, you just have to have a Zoom meeting.
You wanna say
Now, you said something about the Seaport, there's a Seaport grant. Did I just receive an email saying we didn't get a Seaport
So
grant?
this is a fiscal year '24.
Okay.
Seaport grant, the one that we've already been awarded.
Okay, so it's not the one that we were on
Correct.
delay for, okay.
Correct.
So that was for the engineering and design process, but we amended it because there was extra funding. The design didn't cost as much as the grant allowed, so we were able to amend it to use it for this construction.
So make a motion for our Chair, John Erickson, to be able to sign the low bidder on a contract as long as it's below 70,000?
think we should say 75, just to be safe.
All right, 75,000.
My
And it's
auction
the
thing.
lowest
Lowest
responsible bid.
Yeah, yeah, responsible
Yeah.
bidder.
You think it's enough?
I think so. I'm going to defer to Beta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have a,
Worst case scenario, you
Yeah.
have a 5 minutes.
Yeah.
okay.
Worst case scenario, what?
You have a 5 minutes.
If
It's
it
5
goes
minutes.
over.
If it's over that, you have a 5-minute Zoom meeting.
Oh, okay.
Do we
Because
have to
if
take the
it's-
lowest bid?
Lowest responsible,
Lowest
yes,
responsible.
lowest
So they have to meet all
responsible.
the criteria.
Criteria, yeah, so if no one's matched all the criteria, it doesn't matter if they're a
Right.
bum that we know it's a bum, we have to take the low one?
Well, you would
Or we could
assume
not award it,
You could not award
As
it all.
long as you have
Okay.
reason not to
Yeah, yeah,
award
yeah.
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, similar to what we went through with the last go-around, where
Mhm.
they actually backed out on their own,
Yeah.
which was nice.
I don't think bum's an actual criteria.
Yeah.
I haven't seen-
So
I haven't-
subjective.
I haven't seen that in any
It's- it
any
depends on-
RFPs, but I haven't seen them all, so I don't know.
Did you get my point?
I think you are likening bum to not responsible bidder.
Yes.
So do I have a second for that?
So did we pick 75? Just wanna make sure.
75,000,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Second.
John Erickson, yes?
Ron Rusin, yes?
Ben Feidelberg, yes.
Ann Keane, yes.
Let's hope it's 55.
That was a yes, right?
Yeah.
So,
All right, so now.
so the revetment portion of the Northern Spit development is, you guys got a little, I'm just, to be honest with you, I'm a little hesitant because a lot of this got dumped on you in a short period of time, and I know some of you aren't real familiar with it. Joan's not here tonight, and she's, you know, kind of our fiscal watchdog, and I just, if you guys are comfortable voting on it tonight, I'm okay, but, on the flip side, if we need to go through it a little bit more, familiarize ourselves with it and the numbers, I'm fine tabling it till the next meeting.
I would go with tabling it. I don't think I just seen this half an hour ago.
Well, so can I discuss it? So, and then we can, let me.
Yeah, 'cause what is the impact if we table it, I guess is one of the questions.
So the biggest thing that we, so we were gonna go for a Seaport grant, and it was supposed to be an open cycle in June. So it would open June 1st, and they were due June 30th, and we would have been notified, it said in August. So what happened when I went in to check the website, it said that they have moved the Seaport grants to the fall of 2025. At our award ceremony, I talked to Ellen Sabula. And I said, Ellen, what happened? You moved the, you moved the grants. And she's like, yes, we're hoping, to do it in the fall. So that word hoping made me very nervous. And she wouldn't give me any, no details or anything about if it's gonna be like the same parameters or anything like that. The only thing that is, any Seaport grant, you're gonna have to provide some of your own matching funds. So this work that we do would be considered matching funds for the grant that we would eventually apply for the rest of the work in whenever they open up their next round of grants, which we have no guarantee when that's gonna happen. And so if we wait and either wait till July to vote to spend our own money, it just pushes the work into more of a, November, December frame. And then we have that January 15th winter flounder breeding season that goes from January 15th to May 31st. Now, if we're already doing the work and we have our turbidity curtain all installed, we may be able, they may give us permission to work beyond that date, but there's no guarantee. So if we don't want to spend our money now at all and wait till the Seaport grant Seaport grant is open, we apply, we wouldn't hear until probably December if we are awarded. If we are awarded, then we likely couldn't do the work until June of next year. So just because of the winter flounder, we don't want to disturb them. And we could potentially ask about a turbidity curtain and allowing us to start the work at some point during that winter flounder breeding season. But again, they don't have to allow it. So, but the revetment does need to go before the improvements on the top part. So, those are just the impacts of what pushing it does. And I don't know, I have no crystal ball as to whether the Seaport's even gonna do a grant this year. I do know from talking to Foth engineers that they've got 2 projects that they're gonna be proposing. I think there'll be a lot of competition. I don't know how strong we'll be in that competition. We'd have to see.
The other
So-
thing is, and I'm on some other nonprofits, and I know some of you guys are, and like, the current political climate is very uncertain, and a lot of, you know, traditional grant money that's been flowing through the system is getting cut off. So
Mm.
we have to keep that in mind too. that-
How is the relationship with Beta? Is this something that you've updated them on, or is this kind of like a,
I mean,
keep them in
it's.
the loop as this proceeds?
I mean, they're under contract to put together a bid package for us
Yeah.
and to do, help with bid review, but, and then construction management also, but I mean, it doesn't matter whether it goes now or the spring, really.
Sure.
The other issue that we're going to face is that there's a maximum $1 million,
Well, we don't know if that's
We
even gonna be,
don't?
no, we don't know if that's gonna be the case. They may change it.
higher?
No, I don't think it'd go higher, it might
Right.
go lower.
Right, so as far as we know, in the past, they've only been willing to go up to $1 million. This project with revetment and the whole
Improvement.
landscape
Site
plan
improvement, yeah.
may go over that million, and we're going to need to match it anyway, right?
Yes.
You're saying 1.3 here, if the 2 numbers come out right, it's 1.293.
Yeah, I think honestly, the revetment work is a little high, but, that's why we use the 500 for, of the budget number, but, you don't know until you bid it.
And you're hoping to get the other landscape work down further as well.
Yeah, can I just ask you about why are we concerned about Beta's cost estimating here, right? Because they're carrying 15% as a contingency.
Right.
That's extremely high.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah.
So that indicates to me that they may not know what they're doing, right? Because now we're working with numbers here, and it's nice to err on the side of caution, I get
Right.
that. But on the other hand, I'm not sure how much thought that's going into the cost estimating if you're carrying a 15% contingency. We're not paying them to carry 15% contingencies, we're paying them to develop cost estimates that are reflective of what the work is gonna be, not to have a safety net of 15%.
I think they always do that though, Ken.
Who?
In the all the other ones in
Beta.
the past.
Yeah.
I mean,
But that's what I'm saying, and the cost estimate's been off. Right, so there's a whole different issue here, the consultant that they had put this together came in a lot.
Well, so when we got the original bid, so right here, so the embankment stabilization is 376 in the budget. GEI, who is their marine engineer, whatever you wanna call them, their original number was 250 something. So, but Beta thought it was low, I thought it was a little low too. And it worked out to be like $16 a square foot or something. This number that Beta has in their budget here is like at $24 a square foot, and then plus his contingency on top of that. And I know like their turbidity current numbers, their other numbers except for the temporary access road, are based on what they've seen in the other jobs that they've done. That mobilization number can also vary because depending on how the contractor bids, how the means of construction, are they gonna work off a barge and throw the stone onto the land? I mean, anyone's gonna have a backhoe up on the land to help place that stone, but, another guy may just truck everything in. It's gonna be their means and methods and how they wanna bid it. So that mobilization number could be a little, probably change too. So, I mean, in my mind, that the 500 is a little high, but I mean, until you bid it, you don't really know. That's your, truth, right? That's your truth.
So does that mean that it'll be if we waited to July, it would hurt us? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think it would hurt us. It would just, the only thing I worry about moving forward is, getting into colder weather. Placing stone and stuff like that, if the ground freezes or anything like that. That's my only thought. I mean, you want a nice stable, you wanna be able to place a nice stable, you wanna place stone on a stable surface, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So if we voted this okay in July, you'd have to bid it out 30 days until at least August.
Well, we'd have to finalize, it probably wouldn't be able to go out, cause this one would be, we'd wanna give them more than 2 weeks to bid this one. We'd
Right.
probably wanna give them.
You could,
Yeah.
if you wanted to hold it off. There's nothing that prevents you from putting it out to bid now.
Yeah, I mean, we
Well,
can
you
put
could
it out
it-
to
you
bid
could
now,
put it
not
out-
award it
You could
until.
put it out to bid
Yeah.
and not award it. This
Right.
way you know what the numbers are.
Right.
Yeah.
And come July, you can take a vote.
Yeah, and
If
that's
you
what I
feel-
said in the
If you feel
email.
more comfortable
Yeah.
with it, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm not asking you to actually award the work or anything right
Yeah.
now. I'm just saying is to acknowledge that we'd be spending our money really doing the work,
If you award the contract.
if we award the contract,
You-
yes.
You could, like Ken said, you could bid it,
Mhm.
get a price, and then make a call, and if you're not comfortable, you just reject all the bids.
Yeah,
And that way you don't lose any time.
You just have to get beta started on the bid package now.
Correct.
So you'd be spending some money, but
but we've already got that included in their price right now, so that's not gonna be, and it's grant money.
and then take a vote after you get the
Mm-hmm.
bid.
I like the idea better. Are you ready to vote? I think I'm ready to vote on that. I think the numbers, I don't know. Again, we only had 20 minutes to look at it. Joan hasn't even seen it yet.
Yeah.
So bid it and come back another day?
Yeah. Want a motion for that?
Everybody good for that?
What's that?
Second?
Motion to table at the next meeting?
Wait, no, we're gonna table it, or are you gonna allow us to bid it and then we'll vote on? I mean, it won't be at the July meeting, it wouldn't be until probably the August meeting.
What?
We'd have a bid number.
Right.
So you could just motion to authorize staff to bid the project and bring it back to the board if you want.
Perfect. My exact motion. John just said it.
Second.
John Erickson, yes.
Ron Rusin, yes?
Ben Feidelberg, yes?
Ian Keane, yes.
Thank you. So, what you were just saying, Karen, you're thinking we could conceivably have actual numbers by August?
Yeah.
I think so,
Probably
yes.
Middle of August.
Yeah,
Time, okay.
yeah, I'll try to have it for the August board meeting.
Okay. Sarah, did I accidentally skip this?
Yeah, so we
Okay.
should go back
Or
to
did-
that.
Yeah, I was gonna say we could just go back to that. Do we have to acknowledge that we're saying that we would be spending our money?
I think they can make that decision in August.
Okay,
Yeah. Depending on what it is, then they make a final decision, yes or no, and they're saying they're spending their money. Because if you're gonna go ahead with the contract, you've gotta commit to spending your
right,
money.
exactly.
The contract is gonna get paid whether you get the grant or not.
Okay.
I think you make that call at that point.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, because the bids are only valid for a certain amount of
Right.
time.
Yeah.
So we get bids by August. You're saying we won't know to October, November for the grant?
Yeah, you're
We won't.
probably gonna go ahead and decide.
Yeah,
whether
we'd
to do
start the work. I
Yeah.
mean, it
But at least
says,
you'll have a number and you'll know.
Yeah.
you know.
the Seaport website says fall of 2025 for the grant window, and Ellen stuck to fall of 2025. Now, fall can be September, October, November.
Yeah.
But also by August,
I
you
don't
may have
know.
a better sense of what they're doing too.
Yeah, hopefully we will.
All right.
So, do you want to talk, so here's our award.
Yeah, so we wanted to update you on our award ceremony in
Did you get yours
Boston.
yet, Ken?
It was fun.
You don't have it on your desk?
I don't have it on, no, I don't.
Jeez Louise,
So-
crazy. Oh, and then we get, so this little blurb that we're gonna play is, what they played while,
While everyone was going up on the stage, so Johnny never actually saw it because he was up on the stage.
Slideshow.
Hey, Ken, I think you're in this one.
Huh?
I think you're in this video.
You do?
Don't forget, is this the
Ah.
one with the interviews or is this a different?
Yeah, your
No.
voice is
Oh, I
in
thought
there.
That's a
the one you
different
were
thing.
Your
playing.
voice is in this,
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
our voices
Yeah.
are in it from the podcast.
so it's on the
You're
TV.
just not pictured. That's what I thought.
we're talking about something that was ideated in the 90s, began in 2000, I think is the number you said. And we are sitting here in 2025 talking about it being finished and open. So I think it gives people a really good sense of how long some of these things take.
It's a long process, again, working with different governors, different mayors, different congressional delegations, because we needed both state and federal funding. So the whole thing was very complex, not only in terms of the cleanup, but also identifying and securing the funding that was necessary to get us to the point where we are today.
As soon as it was opened, people started walking
Is this
in,
the only
and
slide?
it has walking paths
where are the
on
others
the
going?
edges so that you look out over the Taunton River. If it looks
Here we go.
west, and there's an amazing sunset, and behind you is the hill of houses that go up into Fall River that also has a really interesting appeal. So it's just a beautiful spot to be. I didn't remember all that.
So steamy. That looks so cold. And there we are.
Wait, there was kite night.
It's coming.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like, it's going really slow, it's buffering.
Okay.
Thank God the project came up better than the slideshow.
What?
Listen, it's buffering.
Yeah,
There we go.
it was
There we
really
go.
speedy.
Yeah. It's
So,
buffering.
yeah, I think the video started after the audio, right? Is that what happened?
It's buffering, so the pictures aren't keeping up with the audio.
It definitely looked different there.
But
It
that was
was
the kite
very
night, that was the
fast.
kite night of last year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And then we're back. It was very
Great.
quick. It was very quick.
Yeah,
All
but-
right, end slideshow.
We had more kites in it.
Oh, man.
Not in the one that was at the thing. In the long one, there's more stuff in it. Not in the short one. There's only that one picture, and then the trucks.
Oh, I didn't see any kites in it.
There was a picture with the montage of 3 or 4 pictures,
Oh, okay.
and there was a kite picture right in it.
Okay.
You want to play it again?
No.
But thank you.
It
So, yeah,
was-
it was really nice to, to get that and meet all the people, and I didn't realize it was such a, prestigious thing, and
I'll show.
Kenny was 24, I think, when he started on
That's
the
actually it,
project.
yeah. Just out of high school.
Anyway.
Yeah, it was a fun night. Lots of people came up to us afterward and congratulated us and,
Yeah,
gave
there
us
was-
their card because they were engineers and thought we would wanna work with them and.
Yeah, and there was a few, like, 3 or 4 or 5 other awards, and one company was like turning, trash into energy, another company was, had this enormous solar farm that was powering, 130,000 households or something in Texas, and what was the other, it was, the food, the people that donated the food from restaurants to food banks, and some really interesting projects, and we were one of the 4 or 5 that won the award.
So it was a nationwide acknowledgement?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the New England Environmental Business Council. So it was really New England groups.
So how did the
Texas.
Texas projects get in there?
It's a New England company that did the project.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because I don't know if everything was actually in.
Right, they
one
might
was
not have all.
Agawam, I think.
Hmm?
The trash thing was in Agawam, I think.
Yeah, right.
Let's see. So back to Pleasant Street, Flint neighborhood IRF is the next item, right?
Right, okay. So, I guess there are a variety of things to say about this. As I've been telling you, we're waiting to find out if MIPO will change their process, and we're not proceeding with another $25,000 of work, hoping that there will be a change in the MIPA process, and we will not have to do the environmental impact report. So the latest on this is that, I think I told you, the governor's office is really asking MIPA to think differently about the approval of urban renewal plans, because the process is so lengthy and costly that it's holding up a lot of urban renewal plans. And so, we had, as the Gateway Cities network that meets monthly, we had put together a committee to work on trying to get MIPA to change the process for urban renewal plans. And we had written letters and had a meeting, and now another meeting occurred, and MIPA has been working very hard to come up with a new process, because they feel that by statute, they have to use the process they've been using. And so they're suggesting that they use a special review procedure, which is how we're talking about taking the master plan and the work on Route 7, on the 19 acres. We're talking now about using that concept of a special review procedure, which allows you to design with MIPA a process which may avoid some of the steps that would typically be part of a MIPA review. And so they're all of a sudden suggesting using that process for urban renewal plans, which is a whole new idea that came out of the blue a couple of weeks ago. And so we're having a meeting, we being some of the committee members that meet every month and have been working on this, have a meeting on Zoom with MIPA to talk about how that might work. And what made them think this was possible is that MIPA has been reviewing shellfish aquaculture and looking at every aquaculture project separately and deciding that instead they could take those projects and think about them as kind of a class of projects and use a special review procedure for all of them and design it for that aquaculture work. So similarly, they're thinking they could design a special review procedure for urban renewal plans and just use that for all urban renewal plans, which would get around some of the problems we've been having. So we're having a meeting with them Monday to understand how they think that might work. And a bunch of us are reading the aquaculture concept and how that worked and preparing to talk with them about that. What we don't know is if we go to a process like that, if it really will look back to where we are and allow our process to change, or whether the fact that they've already told us the process that we would go through for our plan, if we'll still have to go through that process. So I'm hoping to get that answer on Monday, because that would have major implications for New Bedford urban renewal plans and ours and potentially others. So that's where we are. Our process is kind of hung up in this much larger question of, will MIPA change their process? And if we get a sense Monday that they won't, then I think we're ready to go ahead and spend the grant money and go ahead and do this next piece of their process. Does that make sense? It's a long, thorny road that we're on.
Can you go over it one more time?
So we've gone nowhere in the last month. That's
No,
what I'm saying.
we've made major progress in the sense that NEPA is considering totally changing their process for urban renewal plans. We haven't moved our urban renewal plan forward,
Yeah.
which is frustrating. And, but as a process for urban renewal plans in the state, we've seems to have made major progress. So hopefully ours then follows that. So that's where that is. And you know that we have about $1.7 million to spend on infrastructure work on Pleasant Street. And so we're slowly developing strategies for how we want to use those funds. So we're making some progress there. And then I reported at the last meeting, and you agreed to match a storefront improvement grant, or a vacant storefront improvement grant process with a $10,000 grant that would be used to match the $50,000 in state tax credits. And I got to the bottom of some of the questions that we had, and amazingly, the tax credits get allocated without any kind of strings to exactly how those funds get used on a storefront. They're just purely to incentivize people to take the risk to go into a vacant storefront on a street that probably has a lot of other vacant storefronts. And so it's really about whatever the company needs to get them to move into a storefront, they can do, and then have tax credits pay them back when they actually file their taxes.
How long do we have to expense the 1.7 million?
The 1.7 million, we have till
It's like 2030.
2030.
2030, okay.
Yeah,
So it's not
So
coming-
we
it's
have
not coming
plenty
up.
of
Yeah.
time, we just, we would like to get the work done sooner rather than later. So that's the update on Pleasant Street.
You wanna talk about, excuse me, NOMA?
Well, actually, I should say though that, these brochures that you have for Pleasant Street were given to our delegation and to the Secretary and Undersecretary of Economic Development. And we have followed up with a very specific request for the 4 million that was put in the bond bill. 7 million was put in, but we're actually requesting 4 million of that. And we put in a budget showing that we would use that over a number of years. And if you're curious, I can send you that budget and what we proposed. But when we gave folks this brochure, they said, well, we don't want to commit the 4 million this year if you're not going to use it right away. So we had to show what we would use it for and in what time frame, and that would be over the next few years. And it shows how it would kind of intersect with the 1.7 that we'll be using. So it showed the 1.7 and the 4 million. Would you like to see that? It didn't occur to me to send it to you, but you might be interested.
Yeah, if you're willing to share it.
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. So, any other questions on all of that for Pleasant Street? Should we move on to NOMA?
Yes.
Yes.
So, I think I told you at the last meeting, we had worked with some of our partners to put a request in to extend the TDI program for another year and have the fellow that's been working with us continue. It was far more competitive than anyone expected, and we were up against 12 other applications, and they were only able to fund 6 of them. And so we were told that we wouldn't have ours extended. So he's going to continue working with us through the end of October. And we have a monthly meeting of the North Downtown group. And so at the next meeting, I'm working with a few other entities that really wanted to see this extended and are really committed to this work. And we're going to meet and bring kind of a proposal or a sense of how we might proceed, which is to create some kind of small business association for the group to, you know, have kind of a committee that would work to figure out how to keep this work going. And so Bank 5 was one of the entities that put this application in. 3 of us had to apply, so I worked with the city that applied, the chamber applied to continue to be the fiscal agent, and Bank 5 put a proposal in, which we kind of worked with them on. So I believe that Bank 5 will agree to be on a committee, the chamber, us, and probably 1 or 2 other entities. And so we'll look at, without the fellow, what will we need to keep our work going? Do we need to raise funds to have somebody support the group 10 hours a week, a month? You know, is there something that we need to do to keep the work going, or can a committee keep it going? And so Johnny's been diligently attending our NOMA meetings and, you know, thinking about this with us. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so there, I mentioned it before, but there's a lot of energy and a lot of interest there from, Sarah mentioned Bank 5, Police Athletic League, South Coast, FRAC, Patty Rigo, the restaurant owners and the neighbor. Actually, I took some pictures that you guys can pass around of the neighborhood.
So the restaurant
You
owners.
tend to kind of walk, go through there fast, but there's so many beautiful buildings there that, they're talking a lot about plantings and lightings, and it's, we just want to help them any way we can, because I think that neighborhood really is kind of a diamond in the rough. It's getting better and more improvements, but it seems like it really has a lot of potential.
So I have a few other things, as Johnny mentioned, to report. There's been a group working on this LEADS program, which is a leadership kind of South Coast program, and one of the groups proposed to, I guess, angel investors through this LEADS group to have a Lighting the Way program in Fall River that would begin to light up buildings, which is something the group has been talking about, either uplighting them or downlighting them. And so they've raised $5,000. They have applications in various places. And the first building to be lit, they're imagining, would be the People's Bank building. Then they're proposing to light that.
Isn't it People's Incorporated?
Yeah, what did I say?
People's Bank.
Sorry.
I forgot to mention, you said, yeah, People's Incorporated.
Western Mass out of People's Bank, I guess that's where I went, sorry about that. People's Inc., it's a bank building. So I was gonna say, it's a historic bank building, People's Inc. owns it, they're looking at lighting that up. Part of their thinking is lighting up buildings you see from the Braga Bridge. So you kind of go over the Braga Bridge and you see these lit up. So the other is the really interesting tile mural that's on the building that was the Herald News building and is now Potter's Printing building. And that could get lit by, that would be less expensive than some of the others because you could light it from the top looking down. And then the third is a commitment from the Congregational Church to light up their steeple. And you also would see that from the Braga Bridge. So this group with that kind of work within the NOMA group are really focused on raising funds for this lighting and then to continue lighting other historic buildings in the neighborhood. So that's an effort that's moving forward. There are lots of little grants that are being made available with some money that Mass Development had committed to Viva Fall River, and they're putting out these $1,500 grants. And so some of those will be used for planters and planting. And in the midst of the city's downtown cleanup process, I went out and worked with some folks to get new dirt in all the planters out in front of City Hall. And so I'm working with Joseph Holdeman to get perennials put in those so that they're planted once and for all and come up every year, assuming they don't die in the winter. And so I'm, if you agree, going to put the cost of some of those plants on our credit card and help get plants in those as kind of our contribution toward some of this beautification. So lots of plants have been going on Purchase Street and in that little
Granite Street?
yeah, the Granite Street, Purchase Street patio that is in front of Viva's shop, and Joseph Holdeman owns it and has been doing a really good job beautifying it. So a lot of plants have been going in, more are going to go on North Main Street, and I'm working with folks to get some in front of City Hall because City Hall's pots had kind of looked pretty bad last year, and it's hard to get them planted every year, so we're trying to
Didn't
get.
People Inc. used to plant those?
No, I think that
And Sandy Dennis.
Sandy Dennis was planting them.
I don't think
in-
so, I think it was People Inc. that paid for them.
Really?
What exactly is the north downtown area? Like, what is the
Bedford Street to like the library.
Bedford?
Bedford Street on North Main and Bedford, and then to, pretty much to Santander Bank, would you say? The library,
You mean, is this
Oh,
south?
it was to
Yeah.
the Y is where we're.
yeah, the Y.
thinking. The
Right,
Y.
so even a little further, another block down to Pine Street.
And then we're also including in this north downtown, up
Purchase
to
Street.
Troy Street. And
Troy.
the Troy Street Arts area.
Yeah.
And so we're calling NOMA stands for North
Maine?
Main, NOMA.
I thought it
Yeah,
was-
you have NOMA, but then it says
No,
North
it's-
Downtown Area.
Hmm?
You said NOMA, then it says North Downtown Area, so NDA, I don't know where you get NOMA from.
It's North Main,
Oh, NO for North and MA
Yeah.
for Maine. No Maine.
yeah, so
Okay.
it's North Main, the NOMA,
MA.
and we're calling it
Soho.
the North Main Historic District. So, see. There was a couple of other things to tell you. Oh, okay, so events. So part of what the group is really focused on is having events to activate this North Downtown area. And Viva Fall River is leading that effort in a lot of ways. Thursday nights are from 4 to 8, the Fork and Farmers Market, which includes vendors, food trucks, and music. Music this coming week is Tandem Duo, and the food truck that's supporting this is the Chicken and Waffles truck of Duke's Bakery. And there are various vendors selling mushrooms, honey, and various other things. They tried to get a farm to bring produce, but it's really hard to get farms to bring produce unless you can really show a lot of people are going to show up, because it's not a big moneymaker to bring tons of farm materials, and if you don't sell it, it's been a lot of work to do that. So what they do have is a sourdough bread company that I guess is very popular. And so there's music, food, vendors, and so that's happening every Thursday night into September.
Where's that?
At the patio of Viva Fall River at the
All right, on
corner
the
of
Purchase Street
Granite
and
Purchase.
Granite, yep, okay.
Yep. And that's looking really great with the grass growing up through the tiles. And then on July 17th is POP, Party on Purchase Summer Celebration. That's a big block party. They're closing the street, and there are all kinds of family-friendly activities happening that night.
Is that
So-
from Viva to like St. James, that part of Purchase?
Yeah, that part of Purchase.
So it's gonna be shut down for it?
That's what I understand. And I believe that Tequila Lime and the St. James are involved in doing something like that. But if you get on the website, there's a lot more information on that. So, any thoughts or questions about that?
What's just the sustainability of that?
Well, that's, the sustainability of the activities is a real question, because Viva is winding down to some extent, and the Patty's going to work part-time with the Community Foundation, so the Community Foundation may be approached to help Viva keep going in some way. I'm not really sure about that. And I think the North Downtown group wants to try to figure out how to keep all that going. And certainly Joseph Holdeman is committed to having that plaza continue to be active, find another entity to go into that store space, and so there's a lot of moving parts to keep all that going. But the restaurants definitely are committed to seeing how we can keep it going. And some of them are looking at doing outdoor dining at the patio or out in front of their businesses, and so that's what we meet about every month.
Is there anything new on the conference for the new urbanism?
Well, I
Any
just
avail
wanted
on
to
that?
report that Ken and I took about 25 people around on this bus for most of the day. And we took them to see mill buildings, went to the Flint to see some of those redone mills, went to Portugalia, and Michael Benavides gave them a really intense tour, and they were really into that. We then went over to North Park and showed them that park, then took them down to Duval Street and drove around parts of the master plan area. Then we had lunch at Barrett's and showed them the master plan on some boards and talked some about it. Then they went to the Narrows and got a tour of the Narrows, and Ken talked to them more about the whole planning process. So that was a really good day, and it's hard to know, exactly what will come out of that, but we built some relationships with firms in Providence, and a professor from Brown was really involved in planning it, and someone came from the the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, who's in New Bedford and trying to figure out how to get the Boston Fed to support things in the South Coast more. And so it was great to have her along. Ken, do you want to speak to it at all?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay.
All right, if there's no further matters for the open session, the chair makes a finding that open session would have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body. Purpose of the executive session is to approve the executive session minutes from May 28th, 2025, and discuss strategy with respect to potential real estate transactions for property located at 45 Anawan Street, Fall River, and Duval Street Corridor, Fall River. I'll entertain a motion to enter into executive session, and we will return to open session.
A motion to enter executive session, and we will return to open session.
Second?
Second.
John Erickson, yes.
Ron Rusin, yes?